Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Well, hello there. Welcome to you. I just sneezed about 20 times, so if I sound a little more nasal, I was going to say if I sound a little nasal, God knows I sound nasal coming from Wisconsin. But yeah, I also just noticed something. I don't know how to, it doesn't matter. Never mind. Never mind. Welcome to another week. Jesus. I'm really into looking for things to feel grateful about, to keep me steady in these times. And I came upon an odd one today. Just want to share it with you quickly. I, as a infant and child, never sucked my thumb. Maybe that was the beginning of this one's a little odd. Yeah, so I never, ever sucked my thumb. What I did as a sort of self-soothing thing, which I think sucking one's thumb is for a lot of people, younger people usually, is I would very slowly sort of rub my eyebrows, one eyebrow, in the wrong direction, right? That's what I did. That was my soothing activity, rubbing my eyebrow in the wrong direction, in the direction, against the way it grows. And I realized that today, as I sat here getting ready for the show and looking through all the scraps of horror I've accumulated since last we spoke, that I was rubbing my eyebrow the wrong way. And I thought, wow, I just want to thank my whatever 1-month-old self for coming up with this. Because if I'd done what everybody else was doing, if I was sucking my thumb, I would have had to have given that up ages and ages ago. But I can still essentially suck my thumb. And even with people there, it doesn't look like anything in particular. If I know how to just keep my hand next to my head and sort of do it contemplatively. So yeah, I'm very lucky. So I realized that I've been sucking my thumb for over 76 years. And I'm grateful. Okay. And one of the things that's really got me going, and then I'll stop, is that how old people, especially like old men, is where you notice it, that all of a sudden they get these outrageously bushy eyebrows, right? Well, I've mentioned hair on the show before, and how as one ages, it disappears from places you would like it to be and pops up in places you don't want it. And I have and one eyebrow hair that is intent on growing. I don't know, it's easily about an inch long at this point, which for an eyebrow hair, you have to admit, is overachieving. And when I do my eyebrow thing, it sort of stands out. I can even feel it. So I have found myself actually just sort of pulling. I love it. I love this new thing on my eyebrow. That's huge. But then when I've looked at it I've taken a mirror and put it up to my face, it is something that any normal woman would immediately cut. It is curly cueing out of my eyebrow and, announcing itself like those old men's eyebrows, those, like Edmund Teller, whatever his name was. Yeah. So, but I can't. I'm so afraid of losing it. I love it. I love pulling on it, sort of playing with it. So I can't. Okay. That's my. Never mind. That's it. I'm done. Eyebrow update. And just so you know, I'm often sucking my thumb throughout this entire show. We all have our coping mechanisms, do we not? So doing my best. Oh God in heaven. Okay, so now let's get down to why I'm in danger of rubbing my eyebrow off. Uh, I saw a quote. There's a few quotes I've seen. One that I've seen increasingly in almost every story that I read, any reporting story about what's going on in the world. I am not in the world, in the United States. The reporter invariably, to buttress whatever fact they're telling us, uses, of course, a source, quotes a source. And in the current age, sources increasingly are not mentioned by name. Instead, what often is said, a source in the so and so department who asked not to be identified for fear of retaliation, said, and then goes on. So stories that used to read before Trump, and so at the so and so agency said, and now increasingly you do not see anybody willing to be named saying anything critical about this administration. And guys, that's the beginning of the end. Start noting how often, when you read, that is what you see. Who asked not to be identified for fear. And when you start seeing that as consistently as we are now seeing it, understand that a line has been crossed that we've never, as Americans, noted before. When people who are important, who hold positions, be it in the private sector, the public sector, media, mayors, governors, when they will only speak to a reporter anonymously for fear of retaliation by the government, that's a sign that we are living in a totalitarian state. Fear is the first thing. So the quote I saw that literally made my blood run cold was a quote from a reporter from China. Well, a guy who actually managed to have the courage to flee China a few years ago and is living in a democracy now. I don't know that he's living here, but he is here, so I guess he is. He said this: I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with a sense of familiarity. It feels so much like China. He's talking about here, now. And he's talking specifically about all of these little tells of living in an authoritarian state. The New York Times did a front page piece on this weekend that is so depressing. I ended up not reading much of it, but here's one little item from it. One prominent first-term critic of Mr. Trump. Okay, so this is somebody who prominently spoke out against Donald Trump in his first term, probably someone whose name we would know. One prominent first-term critic of Mr. Trump said in a recent interview that not only would he not comment on the record, but he did not want to be mentioned in the article at all. He said every time his name appears in public, the threats against him increase. So I just want to be clear that a line has been crossed. I mean, I don't know how many for instances you want me to start reiterating here, but you got Trump acting like a mob boss, shaking down all the media companies, right? I mean, personally, what? They're dropping lawsuits that they would win against him. They're ponying up millions and millions and millions of dollars in campaign contributions and for his library. Can't imagine what book other than Mein Kampf would be in it. So he's openly shaking down media figures, private sector figures, and they're paying. They're ponying up. So you've got this executive that wants to be a king. He has a completely compliant Congress, thanks to the voters. Compliant and cowed and cowardly Congress, unwilling to, exercise their constitutional powers, signing off on all of his incompetent cabinet choices because they're literally afraid of being killed. Congressman Eric Swalwell, who has not been afraid to speak out against Trump, has a huge security detail that he pays for himself. And his young daughter recently did a family portrait, like little kids do, where you're not quite sure, there's just a bunch of weird stick figures around. And when asked, now who's that? She had included the security guy in her family picture that she drew. So we got the Chinese guy saying, man, I feel, like really at home here. It's familiar. And you got somebody like Gary Kasparov, who, of course, lived in the Soviet Union and was around when Putin came to power. He writes this: Trump's admiration for Putin has escalated into a full-blown imitation, threatening to annex Canada and Greenland, punishing disfavored news outlets, unleashing his own oligarch, Elon Musk, to undertake a Stalinist purge of the federal government. This all evokes chilling memories of how Putin seized dictatorial authority in the early 2000s in Russia, which I personally witnessed. Beware, America. So I saw another line. Wow, here's another quote. Just want to share it with you. Speaking of the cowards that we're surrounded by, or in this case, uh, the author calls them pragmatic oligarchs. He's talking specifically about Jeff Bezos. Pragmatic oligarchs, he says, like Bezos, will gladly help set the world on fire as long as they can bid on the contract to clear the debris. Sorry, guys. I mean, I'm sorry that I don't have any good news for you because there isn't any. None that I'm aware of. I'm trying to, I don't. I have none. Um, what is it? I think it's the New York Times that does this weekly rundown of things Trump did the last week. It must be in the Sunday paper. It's a full page or sometimes two. They do it, you know, week by week chronologically. And to read these compilations is, well, fill in the adjective depending on the way you're feeling at any given moment, is terrifying, maddening, enraging. Uh, it's really something. Oh, okay. So let me just move to something else that I found really interesting, and it's not quite as fraught. Oh wait, I see. Do I have a caller? I'm sorry, I hadn't seen that. Excuse me for coughing at you. Um, Something with my lung, which makes me a little nervous. I'm just not getting much air, it seems. Um, Caller, if you're there, here I come. Hello,
Hello.
hello.
I can't share the same views you have, but I'm not going to even go there. I don't see it as much as you do. I see a collapse. I already see signs of it, but I'm not going to go there.
Well,
One
why?
is
Tell
business
me
is all
anything.
pissed off.
Wait. Tell me
Well,
anything I
business is all
said
pissed off.
that isn't true. Tell me anything I said that isn't true. The fear,
No, it's
the
true what you
shakedowns,
said,
the
but you
illegalities.
listen to these people write these articles that are, fearful people or something. I mean, there's other stuff going on like the businesses people are really ticked at Trump. Elon Musk is not getting along with the administration, so it's slowly collapsing. 6 months from now, we'll have a conversation that this has changed in some way.
Mhm.
So I don't see it quite like I can't get there because I just see there's checks and balances it has to go through before it's the end. So besides that, America's different than China. So some Chinese guys saying that is just like blowhard. That's what I say, blowhard. We are different than those people in the way
We'll see.
we approach things. So
We'll see.
we'll see.
The checks and
We'll see.
balances,
We'll see.
the checks and balances you talk of
He's already losing in court.
are,
He's already losing.
Congress
Matter of fact,
is no check anymore, none. And he's not losing all in court.
for now,
And the Supreme Court has yet really to be heard from. The best we can do is that Amy Coney Barrett's got more balls than a lot of these others because they're targeting her now. And, she's got lots of children.
Play out different than your views on it. I really do think it's going to play out different than what you're saying. But we'll see.
I hope so.
Yeah, you might be right. I don't know.
I hope so.
Yeah, I really do. But I just wanted to say something. Have you watched this street musician? He's been in a band. He came from Lithuania 13 years ago, I think.
I'm sorry. Have I seen what? Who?
This street musician named Dovyas. Dovyas.
No.
Well, anyway, he wrote a song. But he writes songs. He has his street music. He plays, and people come out and sing, and he plays. And he speaks real well English. You would think he's American. He was married, so I think, isn't he safe to stay here? I don't know. He wrote this song. He used to say in his act, "Hi, I come from Lithuania. My name's Dovyas," and all that. And he'd say, "I come and I steal American jobs." And people laugh. He said, now they don't laugh anymore. He said, but he is like brave. He said, any students, they just deported a student from somewhere. And he sent him this guitar that has what he wrote before he left. And he's going to have it refinished. And he said he's going to go to that college and play and get other musicians to play. And he said, because that's what we got to do. He said, we got to protest like the 60s. We have to protest. So he's not afraid of it. Now, I don't know if he could be deported or not. I think when you go, if you're married, aren't you?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't. No, especially with Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know if his mother was American too. He was born in Lithuania, but
if his mother was American, he's okay. But I have no idea.
I think, but I'm not positive. Yeah.
Well,
but I just wondered if you watched it.
No, and where would I?
He wrote the song, and they were all bitching. It was on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
D-O-V-A-D. D-O-Y. D-O-V-Y-A-D. I'm sorry. D-O-V-Y-A-D-A-S.
Doyada. Okay.
Dovyas or something.
Whatever. I'll try.
Sure.
Well, maybe some. Anyone want to send me that? Send it to me, and I'll take it. So, well, God bless him.
But anyway, he wrote this song, and there's some that bitching, but there's a lot of people sticking up for him on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wrote, this is called Candlelight, and it's about people being deported, but he's one musician that's on the going to fight against it. Like I don't know if he's putting his neck. He probably could go back to Lithuania. I mean, but I'd be ashamed if he did. I mean, he's such a good-hearted person.
Good. Okay, I'll check him out. Thank you for that. That's good news.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.
I don't mean to be such a bummer, but I don't know what else I can do as I look. Anyway, big opinion piece in the New York Times Saturday, and the headline is "Voters Like Tariffs. Why don't the Democrats?" And I thought, geez, give me a break. And then I noted who wrote it. And the person who wrote it is Chris DeLuzio, who might be your congressman. He is the Democratic representative from these parts in Western PA. I frankly wish he were my congressman. I'd take him over Summer Lee any day. And he is in a more purple district, to say the least. So he tends to. I thought, geez, DeLuzio wrote this. So I read it, and it's very well written. It's impressive. And if you would allow me, I'd like to read some of it to you, because what he does is challenge Democrats to rethink the party line, not totally, but in terms of absolutism, which generally I'm again myself, absolutism. Not that he's supportive of Trump and these absurd, destructive tariffs, but he points out that tariffs invariably, Democrats will say, no, we're against them. And he is arguing that that is a really good way to continue to become a party that working people abandon. So let me share some of it with you. He says anti-tariff absolutism is a mistake. He says, I'm a Rust Belt Democrat from a swing district in Western Pennsylvania where lousy trade deals like NAFTA stripped us for parts. And I agree with that statement. NAFTA did horrible damage to blue-collar workers, their quality of life. There is no doubt of that, to me. And then he says there are some tariffs that are smart. Trump's tariff approach has been chaotic, inconsistent, but the answer isn't to condemn tariffs across the board. That risks putting the Democrats even further out of touch with the hardworking people who used to be the lifeblood of the Democratic Party. People like he says, constituents. Democrats need to embrace tariffs as one component of a broader industrial strategy to revitalize American manufacturing and make whole those communities, so many of them here, that have been hollowed out by decades of bad trade policy. This isn't just about making the economy work for more Americans. It's also about earning back the trust and faith of the people we need to win elections and who ought to be at the heart of the Democratic Party. I think DeLuzio is making sense here. Let me give you a little more. Since the 1990s, presidents from both parties have pushed trade agreements that were great for the corporations and the Wall Street overlords, but a disaster for districts like mine. He talks about how all those corporations, man, they loved that cheap labor in Mexico, and then they loved even cheaper labor in China and in Vietnam. And he points out how all we did was create a chronic trade deficit that deindustrialized this country and truly fueled the income inequality which we are suffering now. Tariffs are one of a few tools that can break the cycle. If you oppose all tariffs, you are essentially signaling that you are comfortable with exploited foreign workers making your stuff at the expense of American workers. He points out that the Biden administration tripled tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminum imports. Rather than reflexively, he says, condemning all tariffs, Democrats should be highlighting how Trump's scattershot threats, unanchored to any real industrial strategy, will not deliver on the goals of rebuilding American manufacturing, raising wages, or rebalancing trade. The fact that he imposes tariffs and he delays tariffs and he threatens tariffs and he again imposes the tariffs and he delays tariffs, and on our allies like Canada, is bad business for Americans. Can you imagine you're an entrepreneur and you're wanting to invest in maybe some production here? Why would you make any moves with this chaos? And tariffs alone are not going to create jobs. Tariffs are not going to build plants. They have to be paired with policies, investment, none of which Trump and the Republicans offer. Policies like what Democrats did in the last Congresses, the Inflation Reduction Act and the Science and Chips Act. He says the corporations need to pay with all the money they made with all these lousy trade deals. They need to pay for the revival of manufacturing in this country, not workers, not consumers. DeLuzio says if we make it easier to join a union and ban stock buybacks, the gains from protection will translate into higher worker pay, not just windfall dividends for investors. Strong antitrust enforcement can stop corporations from using the cover of tariffs to intensify their price gouging. Of course, Trump and the Republicans oppose all of that. This piece is smart, and it shows how the Democratic Party can be so damn dumb and absolutely oblivious. Absolutely oblivious to what has happened to working people, blue collar people in this country. DeLuzio says at the end, Western Pennsylvanians know how important it is to get this right. We lost more than our share of manufacturing jobs and factories to these bad trade deals and policies. Our tax base collapsed, hospitals, schools, vital public services faltered, and communities were destroyed. Okay. It's worth looking up if you want to think about that a little bit more. I found it educational. Oh, God damn. I'm sorry. I picked up my phone and it's came on some bad news. Craig Wolfley, a nice guy, former Pittsburgh Steeler, color commentator, has died, 66 years old. Oh, man. He was a truly good guy. Damn it. Okay. I'm sorry. I picked this up because I wanted to get to some of the emails that have come in. Margaret says, I need braces due to sucking my thumb. Jonathan has sent me a picture of Sir C. Aubrey Smith, who is this wonderful character actor, I'm sure now long gone. A picture of him, you'd know him if you saw him, with marvelous eyebrows. Welcome to the overachieving eyebrows club. Yeah. Okay, a few other things I'm gonna get in here before my time is up, and I'm really sorry. I'm struggling with asthma or something. I thought I medicated myself properly before the program, but I guess not. Um, I I just want to share a few other things with you. Um, I know that the Democratic Party here narrowly did something that, I doesn't surprise me, but it is still eye-opening. They they did not endorse the incumbent mayor, Ed Gainey. They endorsed his challenger, Corey O'Connor, and it was as tight as a endorsement could be, a 274 to 270, which shows a real division in the party here, which of course is not helpful in some ways. But my gut, politics. For those of you who don't know, Corey O'Connor's father was the mayor, who died very soon after taking office. So just a few things that I came upon that you might not have seen. And again, we need to pay attention to the destruction of our government, because that is what Elon Musk and Trump are doing. Because if you take the government out, there's nobody to keep them from doing anything they want to do. They first went after all the watchdogs, right? Then they went after law enforcement, the FBI, the Justice Department, and they intend to essentially pillage this country. Make no mistake. And if you think for a minute, this is what makes me so crazy about the working class people who voted for them, if you think for a minute they give a damn about you, you're out of your minds. Okay, just a few little things that they did, which might have, because you can't, the fire hose just keeps spraying. FEMA, the governmental agency that comes to the aid of people who, whose homes have been blown away for one reason or another, or burned down, or whatever. Flooding, weather, hurricanes, tornadoes. FEMA has canceled its federally run school for firefighters. Because why would anyone think we need firefighters? Why would FEMA need firefighters? I can't imagine. They want to make sure that the program is in alignment with Trump's priorities. If his priority is to burn down the country, well, then I guess you would get rid of the firefighters. FEMA sent an email to instructors and students saying that the National Fire Academy, all courses are canceled effective immediately. Incredible. Okay. Just in case you missed it. Here's another one. The Social Security Administration, this one just blows my mind. The Social Security Administration announced it will begin to withhold 100% of a person's Social Security benefits if they are overpaid, even if the overpayment is not their fault. You can't make this stuff up. Those who can't afford to repay what they were overpaid can contact Social Security. But Acting Commissioner Leland Dudick has cut at least 7,000 jobs, more than 12% of the agency, and its staff was already at a 50-year low. They're closing field offices, and senior staff have either left or been fired. So good luck if you try to contact the agency after they, through a mistake of their own, stop sending you your checks. Also, they made an order that required parents of babies born in Maine. You can't make this up. Why Maine? That was that governor, right? Who stood up to Trump, right? And said, I'll see you in court, right? Well, so this is where the fear and intimidation come in. You pay for that stuff. So the Social Security Administration made an order that required parents of babies only born in Maine to go to a Social Security office, lots of luck finding one since they're closing them all down, to register their baby rather than filling out a form in the hospital, which is what they've always done. You make it easy for parents who've got a lot on their hands with a new baby. You fill out a form in the hospital. No. Well, then, oh, look at that. It's sort of like Trump and the tariffs. They made that order and then they retracted it the next day. Also, they put out an order on Thursday that would have stopped funeral homes from filing death records electronically. Now, if you're trying to get at what they say is fraud in the Social Security system, the one thing you wouldn't do is that, right? If somebody's dead you'd want to know immediately at Social Security they're dead so you can stop the checks. And funeral homes have electronically been filing that information with the Social Security Administration. They canceled that. And then, guess what? Yeah, retracted the cancellation. This brings me to a quote I saw from somebody who knows all about totalitarianism. Let me find it. It was Hannah Arendt. Of course, I can't find it when I'm trying to. About how totalitarians want idiots in charge because you can control idiots. They'll do what they're told. She said it a lot better. I just can't find it. Okay. And just a humanization of some of what I just told you. One guy who just had a little baby, I mean, his wife did, but he was there in called the Portland, Maine Press Herald, that he'd filled out a form for his son's Social Security number, and then his wife got a call saying, "Nah, you got to go to the Social Security office." But when he tried to call the Social Security headquarters to figure out what the heck was going on, he was told the wait time was an estimated 2 hours. So he called a local office where no one knew what the hell he was talking about. This new father, a guy named Joe Lawler, who didn't know he was supposed to say, "I'm sorry, you can't use my name for fear of retaliation," said, "They keep talking about efficiency. This seemed to be something that worked really efficiently, and they broke it overnight." Yeah, well. Oh, yeah, and in case you missed it, let me get this. Oh, yeah, the more top career officials have been told to clear out their desk and get the hell out of the Justice Department. They held key positions intended to be apolitical. The concern of anybody who knows how these things work is really worried about all the institutional knowledge of how the government works is being lost when you throw out these people. He only wants people loyal to him, right? Because that's what autocrats do. And in that regard, let me share with you something from, this is quoted in the UCLA Law Review, but it's in a piece about Nazi Germany. Listen to this. The courts, judges, lawyers, and legal theorists all joined in the Nazi plan and implemented it with vigor. In August of 1934, German judges began taking an oath to follow Hitler, not the Constitution. All state officials, including judges, previously had taken this oath. "I swear loyalty to the Constitution, obedience to the law, and conscientious fulfillment of the duties of my office, so help me God." In 1934, they took this oath. "I swear loyalty to the Führer, Adolf Hitler, obedience to the law, and conscientious fulfillment of the duties of my office, so help me God. Yeah. All right. So gone is the Constitution, and you serve der Führer. No German judge refused to take the revised oath. There is only one prosecutor at a state court that appears to be the only lawyer to resign his office rather than swear fealty to Hitler. Wonder what happened to him. And that guy said he wrote a letter to his brother, obviously lost his job. He said, I could not swear an unlimited oath of loyalty and obedience to a man who is bound neither by the law nor the tradition of justice. But guys, make no mistake, the playbook that Trump is following is Hitler's. Okay? First, you get rid of all of the people who are supposed to make sure the law is being followed, the people whose job it is to ride herd on agencies to make sure they're following the law. Get rid of all those. The inspectors general, gone. You take over law enforcement. You put in incompetent men who serve only you, not the Constitution. The FBI, the Justice Department, all intelligence gathering, you take all of it, gone. You instill fear through intimidation and occasional acts of violence, just to let people know you're not kidding. And they have reason to be fearful. This is the playbook. And anyone who tries to poo-poo this or says that people like me are overstating the case are wrong. They don't know history. They don't see what's unfolding right in front of them. By the way, there were medals that were made that honored the police officers who protected the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, many of whom were grievously injured, some of whom died. So there were medals made, and they were replicas of them were available from the U.S. Mint's online store, but don't look for them there anymore. Those medals have been removed from the U.S. Mint's online store. And a memorial plaque commissioned by Congress to honor the officers who defended the Capitol that day somehow has not been installed at the Capitol and is not expected to be. That's what you get when the law and order party, I guess, is in charge. And then sorry, I was just reading some breaking news. And then, let me get it. none of this is funny. It's terrifying. But every once in a while, some of it devolve into farce. And here's one. It's the only thing I saw that you can actually truly laugh at. And that is something that the ridiculously unqualified head of the Defense Department, weekend Fox anchor Pete Hegseth, "You can't make this up," did. He's keeping his eye on all the important stuff. I just want you to know. He's ordered a purge of all of the Defense Department's databases on the web, anything available to us, the public. He's ordered the removal of any images you can't featuring women, non-white people, anything that they think looks like DEI, right? Anybody but white, male, heterosexuals. Even pictures of women and black people are being taken down. But the Associated Press found this, which is so mind-blowingly absurd and farcical. I quote the Associated Press. They're actually still in business even though they can't get into the White House because the Associated Press refuses to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America? They're still functioning. They just can't get real up close and personal with Trump anymore. Quoting the Associated Press. In some cases, photos seem to be flagged for removal simply because their file included the word gay, including service members with that last name, and an image of the B-29 aircraft which dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, the Enola Gay. A picture of the Enola Gay has been removed from the Defense Department website and database because its name was the Enola Gay. You can't make it up. All right, that's all I've got for you. The thing I was muttering when the show started is I can see on my little screen here, I don't have access to whatever that music is that plays at the end, the outro, as we call it. So I'm just going to have to end the show without it. I will do the disclaimer. Anything I have said is only from my mouth, and a Pittsburgh City paper does not necessarily stand behind a damn thing I have said. It is just me. They disavow all whatever that thing says. Anyway, consider that done. Sans music, and guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay? Toodaloo.